phases in the evolution of the relationship between people and computers. Slide. The first one, which started in the 1940s and went up through the mid-70s, was characterized by what we would think of as the giant calculator phase of computing. We treated computers the way we treat calculators. We would pose a problem to them, we would put the information into the computer, would run through, and it would come out, our answer hopefully would come out. Slide. And of course, the main way that we posed those questions to the computer was with these things. I don't know how many of you even know what these are, but they're called punched cards. And in the 1970s, that was the only real way to talk to a computer. Slide. And of course, there was really no human-computer interaction at all. We interacted with these things, these machines, which were called key punch machines. And you would go into the back room, you would type up your cards, and that's how you would pose a question to the computer. Slide. This, by the way, is what 5 megabytes of information looked like stored on punch cards. In other words, one medium-resolution bitmap image stored on punch cards would have looked like that. Slide. Oh, and we did have graphics, and this is what they looked like. Little pictures coming out of the line printer. Slide. Okay, so that got us up to the 1970s, and then we went into a new phase of the relationship between people and computers. And what characterized this second phase was that we discovered that we could keep the information in the computer, not just run it through. Slide. So it was the Macintosh and a little later Windows that made us realize this. At first, people treated these machines as sort of magic typewriters that you didn't have to put paper in. And the reason you didn't have to put paper in is that your word processing document could actually be stored in the computer. And that was a revelation at the time. It was really a very different way of thinking. Slide. Then, of course, we discovered that we could also store spreadsheets and images and later on music and even videos in the machine. And then the World Wide Web came around, and lo and behold, we could pass these documents from my machine to your machine, and from both of our machines to big central servers that we now call clouds, and get them back again. So we were very much thinking about documents being stored in the machines. Slide. But we are just at the cusp of a third change that I believe is going to be every bit as fundamental as the change from information going through the computer to information being in the computer. And strangely enough, what the change is going to be about is we're going to come to realize that instead of the information being in the machines and ourselves are going to be in the information. Slide. Let me tell you why I believe that. And I'll give an example or an analogy to explain it. Why I made this slide, labeled it data transducers. So phone calls aren't in a cell phone, right? We use the cell phone to transduce radio waves into the sounds of the call, and you don't think of the call as being in the phone. And email isn't really in your computer anymore either, right? We pick out any handy device and we pluck our email out of the sky. So it's not really meaningful to talk about emails being in the machine anymore. And that's really true of web pages too. The client machines don't store web pages. But in a real sense, the servers don't either. There's these big server farms that implement the cloud, and the information in the web pages are just floating around in there somewhere. It's not in any particular machine. So the data have been liberated from the devices. The analogy is, if you think of, let's say, infrared goggles, right? We can't see infrared because our bodies don't have the perceptual apparatus to do so. But we could build machines. We could build infrared goggles that we could put on that transduce the infrared to something that we can see, and then they're sort of a prosthetic device that allow us to see something that we're not equipped to see. That's what computers are starting to be. They're starting to be a prosthetic device for seeing objects that we normally can't see because they're made of data instead of atoms. Slide. So we have to stop thinking of the data as being in the computers. Rather, we have to start thinking of the computers being in the data. Slide. So cyberspace is important. We need to start thinking of it as being a realm filled with objects that are made of data instead of atoms. And the computers are simply what we need to access that realm. So the computers are prosthetic devices that let us see and interact with data. Next. So modern computing devices, as these pictures illustrate, are really just windows into cyberspace. And slide. And the best windows, of course, are invisible. So if human-computer interaction is going to evolve in the way that I think it should, and I think as these examples illustrate, the best thing that could happen is that the computers will simply recede into the background, just as a perfect pair of glasses will recede into the background at all. We don't want to see the windows, we want to see the data. This, of course, is Google Glass, and I don't know if this is going to succeed as a product or not. It's a little strange walking around this way, and I don't know if people are going to like it or not, but it's certainly true that the direction that things like Google Glass are suggesting is going to be more and more important in the future. We're going to interact with these disembodied data objects, and we're not even going to think about what we use to see them. Slide. So the premise is, as computers become pervasive and transparent, people will interact primarily with information objects, not with the computers themselves. Slide. And so we need to learn to design these information objects with as much care and as much human-centeredness as we now design our interactions with the devices. Slide. So the challenge is, our world will soon be filled with 1 trillion computers, and I'll talk a little later in the day why I believe that to be true, and uncounted numbers of information objects. And usability is going to be an emergent property of the design of all these trillions and trillions of objects. Slide. So that leaves us with 2 very big questions. First, how can usability designers do their work in such a world? Slide. And how do you design an emergent property? And that's what I'm going to talk a little more about later today. Thank you.
We are amazed to know the extent to which technology has advanced. As technology advances, people should also advance. Well said, sir. Thank you very much indeed, sir. Now, as a mark of our deepest gratitude, I request our Chancellor to honor our chief guest with a shawl, a garland, and a memento. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Peter Lucas, for gracing the occasion. Dear audience, we have come to the most awaited moment of the day, the release of conference proceedings. Now, I request our esteemed Chancellor, Dr. N.M. Veerayan, to release the proceedings of the conference. I take privilege in inviting our honorable chief guest, Dr. Peter Lucas, to unveil the conference proceedings CD.
You all. We have amidst us today our guest of honor, Dr. Christina McConville. Dr. McConville received her undergraduate degree in System Design Engineering from the University of Waterloo in 1986. She obtained her MSc and PhD from the University of Toronto. She worked in the Canadian Space Agency in the Canadian Astronaut Program Office. She also spent 10 years in industry as manager of biomaterials and engineering at Astra Aerospace and as a product manager for International Space Station and sensor programs at Honeywell Aerospace. She is now an associate professor in electrical and computer engineering at Ryerson, adjunct professor at the Institute of Biomaterials and Biomedical Engineering, University of Toronto, adjunct scientist at the Toronto Rehabilitation Institute, a professional engineer, and a senior member of IEEE. She has also received awards like Supervised Best Graduate Thesis Award, Electrical and Computer Engineering 2009, Supervised Nominees for the Institution of Engineering and Technology Competition 2009, Vice Chair, IEEE Toronto Section, Engineering and Medicine and Biology Chapter 2006-2009, currently Supervised Winner of Department GREA Award 2009 and 2007, Human Semi-Finalist in Canadian Astronaut Recruitment 1992, Factors Association of Canada Best Undergraduate Paper 1986. With all esteem, I invite Dr. McConville to deliver the special address.
Thank you very much for that lovely introduction. And before I begin, I would like to thank the committee, foremost our director, Ramya. Thank you so much for the wonderful welcome. And to those who have welcomed me and taken care of me, I'm very grateful to be wearing this beautiful traditional costume. And I thank Dr. Ujia for helping me every step of the way, because I would not have been able to do this myself. Thank you so much. It's been overwhelming, the welcome that you have given us, and I'm very, very honored to be here. So I'd like to start by telling you that it was a few years ago that I was teaching your director, Ramya, and she invited me then to come here, and it's now that this dream has become a reality. So I'd like to talk to you about dreams that can become realities, and they can become realities for you as well. I have had some varied experiences with human-computer interaction. I started back in my undergraduate days when I started to decide what project I would like to do as my thesis. And some of the things that interested me, and still do, are how the brain works, and also space exploration. So how can we bring those things together? Well, one problem that astronauts have is motion sickness. What causes motion sickness? Well, it seems that it's our perception. It's our perception of